Welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. I'm back again with another Eve Echoes video, and I'm back on the final build series. Now, unfortunately, over the past 3 weeks, I've had a lot of internet problems, and with it came a few additional problems that I didn't expect to have. And to be honest, it really threw me for a loop. I didn't know what to do with it, and that's just about where I was making these videos. Now, I sincerely apologize to anybody who was looking forward to the full build series. I wasn't capable of completing it all. Obviously, there's a lot that's been going on, and it really did affect my progression through putting up these videos. Okay, so let's get into this video right now, and let's see if we can make something a little bit better than would be expected. So we're going to do the Condor Interceptor T8 and the Condor Interceptor at the higher level of T9. Sorry, not T9, T10. So we're going to be doing both at the same time instead of doing one by one. So let's go over the usage of the ship before we even get into anything further. The Interceptors are the only ship immune to Interceptor bubbles. So you can't really take down these ships with interdiction spheres. Sorry, not Interceptor bubbles, interdiction spheres. They are immune to those spheres, and that allows you to run these ships through gates. If you mod them up correctly, they can pass through a gate faster than any ship can lock onto you. And because of signal lag and delays in feedback between various areas in the world, this is one of the most effective ways for you to get a ton out of the game, to be honest. You can go around and plague every single system that you want, and you will be able to get away with one of these ships. They're almost uncatchable, and in most cases when they do get caught, it's some sort of lag issue or some sort of glitch, or a station was destroyed and the ship didn't make it in time, something of that sort. But nonetheless, that's the only time that these ships don't get in. So that's where I'm going to break down on why you use these ships. They're good getaway vessels. They're also very good for quick and close range PvP. Now, when I say quick and close range PvP, I mean if you're going to sneak up with the ship against a big ship right up front, you're going to do quite a bit of damage. I'm actually going to go through both the Condor Interceptor T8 and the Condor Interceptor T10 at the exact same time. The reason for it is quite simple. The builds are going to be almost exactly the same, and if there are any differences, it'll be one or two minor aspects that will change up. So let's have a look at the various things that the ship has. +1 warp disruptor field immunity level. Now obviously it's 1. So obviously if you're running 2 or 3 interceptor bubbles, it most probably will interfere with it. Although it should be totally immune. I've never seen the interceptor bubble fields stacking on each other. So yeah, that's a possibility. I'm not 100% sure on it. Advanced electronic warfare, +3% warp disruptor optimal range. That's a 15% increase in range on something that has a 15 kilometer range as stated regularly. That gives you about a 1.5 kilometer addition. No, sorry, 15%. 1.65 additional kilometers on that range. Can be useful in combat. It gives you just a little bit of an edge to actually catch someone. +3 warp scrambler optimal range, right? So disruptor or scrambler, that means people who are annoying with a lot of those micro warp drives, you can catch them by chance because they're going to try and flaunt you at just that perfect angle where they're going to get that range to get around you. And if you manage to cut perfectly into their line of movement and just get that 1 kilometer extra or that 0.5, you knock them out of their speed, and then you have them, and then they are your prey because they won't get back into micro warp, and they definitely won't be able to escape you. Okay, -15% warp drive signature radius penalty. Alright, so when you add that total times 5, that's going to be a 75% warp drive signature radius penalty. So it reduces your signature radius by 75%. That means the ship is going to appear smaller than it is. It's going to be harder to lock onto. Sorry for that. Advanced brake command plus 10% small missile or torpedo damage. So considering that it has a lot of missile or torpedo damage, pairing it up perfectly with that right range, that right capability, you're going to be able to disrupt the enemy and knock them out with us. Now, here is something to note about it. So far, everything I've described about the ship describes it perfect for PvP. The ship isn't optimal for PvE. That is something I'm just going to say. But I will tell you that even though the ships aren't optimal for PvP, they will be effective in PvP up to T7 solo, and they will be usable in fleets up to T8 and T9 solo. Sorry, not solo, in fleets, right? Flight speed 4 meters per second. It's not that fast. Overall defense 2,342. Keep note of it because we're just going to jump to the next one in a few seconds. You're going to see that there are some differences between the two. Power grid output 39 megawatts. Now, this is a very tiny power grid. That tells you that the ship isn't going to have that much to balance, but it does have 3 slots for weapons, 3 slots for mid, and 3 slots for low. Whatever you're going to do in mid slot, you're going to have to go for 1 megawatt. There is no way you're going to be able to balance it with too many big items. Capacitor 524 gigajoules. It tells you that it's ready for shield regen. And cargo capacity hold is very small. Signature radius is 136 meters. Now, if you count that 75% signature radius reduction to the ship, that's really going to make it tiny. It's going to make it look like less than a 50-meter ship. So when you're scanning for it, it's going to be quite difficult to pick it up. Now, let's go to the higher class, Interceptor 2. Okay, warp drive immunity is still +1. And here's the big bonus. Plus 30% optimal range on disruptors and scramblers. That on its own is already so big of a difference that it makes a world of difference in combat. 30% means now it's 18 kilometers. That little straddle that they can do, which is on that 20 kilometer range, if you manage to boost right into the right spot at the right second, you're going to catch them. You're going to effectively take down all of their advantage against you in combat. Okay. No. Alright, so 75% signature radius penalty. I said no for that piece of notification that came up. And another big bonus, plus 17.5% to the weapons. This gives it a 87.5% overall boost to weapon power. Now, you might be thinking that's not that big, but trust me, that's almost doubling its effectiveness. It's giving it it's giving it a quarter extra to what the other ship had, and just that little bit extra will make a big difference. Remember, you have 3 weapons. A quarter extra means 3/4 excess damage each time you land a volley. It means that every time you keep going through and pushing through, you're going to end up with more power. Now let's go on to the stats. As you can see, an overall defense increase, 2,942. Both ships have the same capability. Up to T7 solo, T8, T9, T9 and T10 with a group, right? And all of this does not mean that the ship is absolutely untouchable. It just means that that is the range where it will work. Warp speed 5.5 AU. It's quite good. Power grid output 42 megawatts. It has 3 extra megawatts to its power grid. It's going to use the exact same fittings as the Condor Interceptor 1. You're not really going to change up much. If there are any things to change up, you'll see exactly what I'll show you to change up on the ship. But this is all just the standard to use the ship effectively. It's most effective in PvP. In PvE, the way I'm going to build it is purely for tackle and takedown. You can use it against small ships quite efficiently, and you can use it against tanky ships quite efficiently as well, provided you use the right attack order. 561 gigajoules, 390 cubic meter cargo hold, quite a big cargo hold compared to the first one, and 130 meter signature radius, reduced by 75%, well below what the other one is. It means it's even harder to lock onto the ship, giving you a much better advantage in terms of actual combat. It also has a very fast lock-on time for other vessels. So you're going to be able to lock onto frigates and take them out before the fighting gets dangerous. Okay, now let's get into the crazy part. Unfortunately, I'm not on the content creator server, so please bear with me as I go through these because I haven't been able to log into it for 3 or 4 days at this point. Okay, right, yeah, we can go up to X-type on the official. Alright, let's look at it carefully. Right, power usage is 9 megawatts. 3 of these will obviously give you 27 megawatts. That's more than 50% of your power grid gone to weapons. Now obviously there are engineering stats to add and I have 0 engineering. So when you add all your engineering stats, remember you are going to get that big bonus. So you can count it as upwards of 60 megawatts. So effectively half of it goes to hosting your weapons. Both ships are in almost the exact same class. They'll just have a 3 or 4 megawatt difference in the end. Sorry, no, about a 3 for baseline and about a 7 for end of all processes, because the increase is by percentage, so it does make a big difference. Okay, next thing to note about this vessel. Right, when it comes to the weapons, if you do want to use torpedoes, you can use it on the ship. But here are all the things that I'm going to tell you for not using a torpedoes platform. Torpedoes are very good at knocking on a subject's strong points, but they aren't very good for taking on an opponent where you are at their weak point. So be very careful about that. If you're going to go around and mess around with these big vessels, remember there is a strong chance they're going to counter-offensive against you, and that can be very problematic for most players in the game. Okay, now let's go to mid-slots before we go any further. There are no drones to add to the ship, so that's not going to be a problem. Electronic warfare and Nosferatu are going to be everything for the ship. Right, we're going to use it to tackle ships, and since it's already a very fast class, Predator class stasis weapons, as you can see, 1 megawatt off. Now that takes your total up to 28 megawatts. The other thing you're going to put on is not a warp disruptor, but a warp scrambler. The reason for a warp scrambler over a warp disruptor is you have far more power in the scrambler over what you would with the disruptor. You also have the advantage of knocking out their speed. Now here is the negative to it. 7 megawatts getting knocked off your system, it's quite a big hit. That pulls you up to 35 megawatts knocked off the system. You still have 3 items to fit on in the low slots, and you still have 1 more mid slot. So if you don't have the research, this is definitely not the ship for you to use. It will be extremely dangerous to try and pull this off without the right fittings. Okay, let's head on to the next fitting. Now, since this is for both PvP and PvE just about the same, right? I'm not going to change the fittings. You can double your scramblers, or you can double your Weber fires. Either one will work depending on which faction you're fighting. Remember, when it comes to ships using things like micro warp drives, they aren't that common for most of your factions. So something like a stasis Weber fire has the edge. You could double that, or you could just double the disruptors, because disruptors do have an effect on ships that run with micro warp drive. That's for PvP players mainly. But one of the other key components to this will be a Nosferatu. You're not going to go crazy, you're not going to go medium, you're just going to stay in the low class, 9 megawatts. Now we were already at 35, right? If you don't have any stats in the ship, you actually finished at this point, you're not going to be able to do what I'm about to do with it. So once you add this on, you go up to 44 megawatts. Now that's well above where you would be with the ship if you don't have any research, and it's a bad idea to be running a ship without engineering research. So at this point, remember, you are really counting on that big boost from engineering to be saving you. You're at 45 megawatts. That leaves you with exactly 15 megawatts for everything else that's going to go on your ship. I'm actually going to count it down to 14 just for the sake of being fair. Now, you use Nosferatu for PvP. Not for PvP, sorry, for PvE for one reason. Extra bonus tankiness only helps you in a fight. It doesn't help your enemy, and it will definitely pull you to a better win overall. Now, I can obviously augment it with even more power if needed through the rigs, but you'll see exactly where I'm going with the ship. This I have to thank Havoc for, because he's the one who taught me this lesson when we were playing together in the collaboration series in the past. He's the one who showed me how you use this. Sorry, made a mistake. These are X type, so these are going to be crazy heavy in terms of usage. 6 megawatts, right? 6 megawatts is quite a heavy system to put on your ship. 6 to that 44 at the moment will pull you up to 50. You literally have 10 megawatts to balance your system. The end. There isn't going to be any leeway, there isn't going to be any push or pull. You don't have anything else to balance your ship on. Now, obviously there were things that could be done. There's places where you could swap out a little bit, change up the weapon systems a bit better, right? The next thing that I'm going to put on is a shield hardener. Now, a lot of people will be wondering, why in the world a shield hardener? Well, X-type shield hardener uses 1 megawatt, right? There we go, that is in. And last but not least, we're going to go after an afterburner. Now, we are outside of the regular for power on the ship, so this means we have to sacrifice one of the engineering rigs to get it to this point. As you can see, it's 17 megawatts. This pulls it just above where we should be. A 10% increase to our power grid isn't going to cut it. Obviously, these are heavy mods to add to a ship, but nonetheless, as it's 17 megawatts, obviously I'm going with X-type, it's quite heavy. So, right, this is weapons and defensive. This here would be engineering rigs. Yeah, I'm correct. Auxiliary power grid, perfect item to use. If you throw this onto your ship, the boost should just put you right to where you need to go. You only need one of these, right? It does alter a lot of where we're going for engineering, because after this year we're going straight to navigation, and we're gonna follow a very simple rule. Speed is everything for small ships, so double auxiliary thruster. You're not worrying about your power grid's total capacitor, because you're using the Nosferatu for that purpose. It's helping you balance for that particular purpose. Obviously, if you get rid of your warp disruptor from your, warp scrambler from your ship and put in another Webifier, you most likely won't need to go with the engineering rig, and you'll be able to put in something else to balance out your defensive systems better. But nonetheless, let's get to the last piece of the engineering. The last piece is going to be your weapon systems. Now, the ship does have quite a bit of tank, right? At about 2,300 to 2,900 between the two, plus the buffs from your actual research, you could get quite a good ship out of these two. Now, I am making 2 interceptors in a single video. I know that's not what I would ideally want to do, but they're basically the same ship with just a small difference in power grid and capacitor usage. The secret to getting these ships to be very efficient is going to be putting on a reduction to the shield capacity need. Number 1, first thing you do, payload accelerator for faster firing time and increase the damage on these ships. So if I'm correct, payload accelerator and hydraulic something for the missiles. But nonetheless, these two will now give you a harder hit and a faster release time. That means your DPS increases. And with a ship that can evade and run away from most situations, it makes it a good PvP hunter. If you're running around with the ship, you can go and catch a miner, even in a procurer if you are lucky enough, and you can smash them away without much resistance. And that will be it. You'll have quite a big amount of fun, and that's going to be it for you. You're going to be able to run away and have a blast afterwards. Okay, let's see whatever else we can get here. Alright, now, so that's going to be it for the build on the interceptors. Most of the Interceptors are going to have a similar class build. It's just that some of them have more power grid and they won't need that power grid to interface with them. So they'll go double auxiliary thruster, and the third on them will be an extension to their capacitor. Now, capacitor extensions aren't something you're always going to play with, and the only reason why I like afterburners over micro warp drive is afterburners are highly efficient for getting away. They always will work. There isn't anything that's going to knock them off completely. So that's the reason for that particular choice on this ship, and I will catch you all in the next one. Have a good day.